All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural Speaking of Miracles speaker panel. Tonight's guest, you have him here on the screen. I won't spend too much time speaking. I know you're here to hear from him about the work that he is doing and the work that's happening inside of UF Health Shands Children's Hospital. But I know we've got a number of folks on the call with us tonight from some of our corporate partners, from our Extra Life participants, from Dance Marathon, some of our supporters in the community, all who want to know how the dollars that are being raised in Gainesville and beyond are helping families who turn to UF Health Shands every year for support. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Sayour. There's a lot that he accomplishes here at the University of Florida and with UF Health Shands, so I will let him talk to you about that, but specifically the research that happens, that hope that we were able to provide for patients today and for tomorrow. So Dr. Sayour, I'll have you introduce yourself and then we can pull open the information you wanted to share today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the honor of being able to present our work here to everyone. Children's Miracle Network has done so much in so many different areas, and I'm largely going to focus on research, and really research in one particular area, and that's childhood cancer. But the impact of Children's Miracle Network goes so much further. It goes to many other diseases in children. It funds vital infrastructure within our hospital. Many of the ancillary services, such as Child's Life, are really supported through mechanisms and infrastructure that have been made available through Children's Miracle Network. So even though this is the big slice of the pie for me, childhood cancer, it is really one of many, many, many initiatives being supported by Children's Miracle Network. But I'm going to focus on research for children's cancer as part of this talk. And I think it's important for everyone here to know that it really is the few dollars that makes the biggest difference, because without those initial seed money, we can't even be in a position to get millions of dollars of funding. So much of the work I'm going to present here has led to millions of dollars of funding, but it has been that seed, that initial $10,000, $25,000, $50,000 that really has allowed us to make discoveries, translate those discoveries, and move them into human clinical trials. So, as many here may know, new treatments for childhood cancer are obligatory. Childhood cancer is now the #1 cause of disease death of children in the United States. Every 2 minutes, a child is diagnosed with cancer. Often I say a mark of a great society is how well we take care of those most innocent among us. And now that this has become the #1 disease cause of death, we have some work to do. But it's not just the need for more cures. Even the patients that are cured with this horrible disease are patients who have a lot of long-term side effects. Imagine a child with a brain tumor. That patient might receive surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and then may not be able to walk, talk, or hear. They may have cognitive deficits that follow them the rest of their life. And so even when we achieve a cure, the price of that cure can be quite steep. And so if not for research, if not for organizations like Children's Miracle Network, we wouldn't be doing the groundbreaking research that might lead to these therapies. And here at the University of Florida, we have developed a very encompassing program to make these discoveries. And this is rooted in the belief that the immune system can recognize and destroy cancer. And so I constantly challenge the paradigm that cancer is a self-disease. A cancer may look like self, but fundamentally it is not self. There are foreign entities within cancer that can be recognized and rejected by the immune system. And so in this way, the immune system is our guardian angel. And here at the University of Florida, through support of Children's Miracle Network, we have been able to develop the Pediatric Cancer Immunotherapy Initiative, which we fondly refer to as the PCI2 group. And this came together through support from the Cancer Center, Department of Pediatrics, largely through the Children's Miracle Network, and the Brain Tumor Center here in 2019 to catalyze development of new discoveries that can not only lead to new clinical trials, but also help develop careers of physicians and scientists working within this space. And so this support is really what kick-started this group. That support was on the order of tens of thousands of dollars. And this has led to tens of millions of dollars in 3-4 years' time. I think that's worth everybody being aware of, because often I'm asked, does my $20 matter? Does my $1,000 matter when we need hundreds of millions of dollars? The answer is yes, and this is evidence of that. So this research group is really charged with making discoveries. Why does the immune system work to fight cancer? Why does it fail? How can we understand when it works and optimize that? How can we learn from our failures and rescue the immune response when it's not working so well? How do we translate these discoveries? How do we take the knowledge we have gained and really not just leave it in a paper, but really move it forward for patients suffering with this horrible disease? How do we develop groundbreaking treatments while educating the next generation of physician and physician scientists? So this effort, which started with seed money from Pediatrics, Neurosurgery, and the UF Health Cancer Center, really spans now multiple colleges. And so the University of Florida is a really special place. I mean, there are very few places in the country, if not the world, that have the infrastructure that you're seeing on this slide. This many colleges, institutes, centers working to cure human disease. And all of these have been involved in this initiative to improve outcomes in childhood cancer. This is a slide of just some names that we've worked with. You can see that many of these folks are working in the vet school, many are in the College of Pharmacy, many are in different departments, some in pediatrics, some in medicine, some in pathology, some in neurosurgery. But this has really ballooned over the last 4 years into a large group of people working hand in hand to develop new technologies, new mRNA vaccines, new T-cell therapies, CAR T-cell therapies, new ways of studying cancer as 3D models, a comparative oncology initiative to take discoveries, move them into large animals, and then human patients. So I don't have time to touch base on everything going on as part of this initiative. I think that slide was important to just give everyone an idea of how many people are involved. I'm going to talk a little bit really about one example. The example is regarding our work with mRNA vaccines. Many of you may know that the Nobel Prize was awarded yesterday to discoveries that were made that led to mRNA vaccine therapies. But as a vaccine, mRNA is going to face the same challenges in cancer that all vaccines face, which is they haven't really worked. People have been trying for over 100 years to get cancer vaccines to work, but they haven't. And the reason they haven't is it takes time. It takes time to generate a response and then boost it. If we were to look at any primary vaccination series for children, it takes months, years to develop enough of a boost to get a vaccine to elicit protective responses, and you don't have that kind of time in cancer. So if we are going to develop a vaccine that works and works rapidly, we need to develop new technologies. And we have done that through support from Children's Miracle Network. We've done that through support of our institution and other funding agencies. But in this one example, we have been able to take information from a patient's cancer in the form of RNA, and now load it into a nanoparticle in such a way that it looks like a dangerous virus. And then we inject that intravenously into the bloodstream, in effect making a patient's cancer look like an active viral infection, to wake up the immune response, not over weeks, months, but immediately, by making the body think that it's under attack. And this approach really involves using nanoparticles in such a way that allows us to layer the RNA, that information, like an onion, into these layers. And so these are like nano onions that we inject right into the bloodstream to induce significant responses in our in our animal models and in our patients. This is just a slide of mice with osteosarcoma. So osteosarcoma is the most common malignant bone tumor in children. Unfortunately, despite best of care, sometimes these tumors can come back in the lungs. And it's these tumors that can really take the lives of our children by coming back in the lungs. So getting rid of this lung disease is really important. So we have an animal model of osteosarcoma. You could see in mice that have these lung mets of osteosarcoma, there is significant disease burden. These are very ugly looking lungs. You could see very dark nodules here, basically scattered all throughout the lung. And then in mice that were treated with these vaccines, you see very healthy lungs. And so we've also done this in mice with brain tumors. One of the most horrible tumors that I have seen as a practicing oncologist is a tumor by the name of diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. This is a tumor that occurs in the brainstem, and is, when it has this particular mutation, H3K27M, it's incurable. It has effectively a 0% cure rate. Now, this mutation, as horrible as it is, actually allows us to make an RNA vaccine against the mutation. And so we made these nano onions which were encoding for the H3K27M mutation, and we were able to significantly cure mice with this disease. And it's important that these vaccines really started when the mice started getting sick. And so to have curative outcomes in these animals gives us some hope that we may be able to hopefully translate this into human beings. Now, the mouse work is important because you have to start somewhere. And again, it is the seed monies that have led to that preclinical work, mouse data, that's why I'm showing it, proof of concept that an idea has merit. But ultimately, we at the University of Florida, through the infrastructure that I mentioned, have the ability to take these discoveries, take these proof of concept data, and now move them into large animal studies, which are critical for securing FDA IND approval, which allows us to run human clinical trials. We've partnered with the College of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Milner, Dr. Carrera Eustace. We have trials in pets with brain tumors, trials in pets with osteosarcoma. I have to mention these animals have natural forms of cancer. They are not injected with tumors. They have spontaneous cancers, just like a child could develop. And these pets are enrolled on a clinical trial much the same way as a child would be enrolled on a clinical trial through consent. And these dogs with brain tumors don't live more than 1 to 2 months. Standard of care for this disease is really palliative care. So they're eligible for clinical trials, and we've been fortunate to be able to enroll patients with both brain tumors and bone tumors on our clinical studies. So I'll show some examples here. This was actually our first dog that we treated. You can see this brain mass, this ring-enhancing lesion. Looks a lot like glioblastoma, the most common malignant brain tumor in adults. And so after 3 vaccines, this tumor actually looked a lot more swollen. Darker, perhaps there was some tumor cell death, but more swollen. And this suggested to us that there was an inflammatory response in the tumor, since the tumor looked smaller, but more swollen. And so this we call pseudoprogression, meaning it's signs of progression, but not real tumor progression, but more likely an inflammatory response in the tumor that makes it look larger. Now, the way to really sort through whether this is real progression or tumor progression is to get serial scans on these dogs, which we were not able to do because this would have had to be covered by research dollars. So we were really only able to obtain pre and post scans. But I should mention that every one of these dogs lived longer than expected. The median survivorship of these dogs was about 123 days, which was significantly more than the 1 to 2 months that has been reported in the literature. In partnership with Dr. Silver, we also have treated cats with head and neck cancers. You could see this is one of the lesions a cat had with head and neck cancer. This is a disease in cats that essentially has a survivorship of only 10% at 1 year. And in the small cohort of cats we treated, we had about 75% survivorship at 1 year. So this has been an approach that has worked for both pediatric forms of cancer, adult forms of cancer. And primarily, though, we are interested in moving it into clinical trials, dedicated clinical trials for childhood cancer. And in that regard, we have really been fortunate to work with the Pacific Pediatric Neuro-Oncology Consortium. This is a consortium of children's hospitals all over the country. These are some of the most preeminent children's hospitals around the world. And we are the lead manufacturing site for making these vaccines and delivering them to patients all over the country with childhood brain tumors. Due to the large animal work that we have, due to the seed funding that allowed us to conduct preclinical work in mice, we were able to secure FDA IND approval. And the FDA, though, wanted us to start treating adult patients first, and we have completed the 4 patients necessary to now begin in pediatrics. And so we are basically seeking final approval to start in children, and that's expected to happen in the next 1 to 2 months. Simultaneously, we are working with Dr. Ligon, who is recruited here from the National Cancer Institute and Johns Hopkins to conduct a clinical trial using these RNA vaccines now in children with osteosarcoma. And this is through a separate consortium. This is the Sunshine Consortium. But a similar idea, these vaccines will be manufactured at the University of Florida, and they will be deployed to children's hospitals around the country through partnership with the Sunshine Project. So UF, again, has this capacity. Very few places have this capacity to do discoveries, move those discoveries into large animal models, and then actually conduct clinical trials in patients where we're manufacturing. This is not a company that's manufacturing these drug products. We here at the university manufacture this in our pharma-grade facilities, and then it is deployed to patients that are being treated here or elsewhere. So I stop there, and I think I was supposed to save 10 minutes for questions, so hopefully I'm okay on time.
You're perfect, Dr. Sayour. Thank you so much. And that, one of the things that you mentioned is the that ability to really bring everything together, right? Is that we've got all of our health science colleges right here. We're able to connect both in what we're doing right across the street in our research labs into our hospital for our patients today, but also for the future. And so I know a lot of our donors, that's what they're looking to. They're bringing that cash, that gift, that support to our hospital. And because it's undesignated, it can go to that greatest need. And so it can be that seed money, like you mentioned, for research. We know it's purchasing equipment and providing funds for programs. And so I do want to open it up to questions. So if you have any questions and you're watching on YouTube right now, you can actually just pop them right into the chat. If you're not logged in or you're watching from your phone and it's a little more hard, a little more difficult, you can actually just text chat live to 41372. We'll see that and ask Dr. Sayour. But I do have a question for you. Personally, I know you've shared a lot of your research and we've had the opportunity to speak a number of times, but I think for some of our supporters to just kind of know that, how did you get where you're at, right? What drove you not only into medicine, but specifically into research? Because there's a difference between delivering medicine and then being on the academic side as well.
It's a great question. I don't know if we have enough time for me to get into the whole story, but I mean, medicine has always been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember. I've really wanted to be a physician. The idea of being a physician really was had been inspired through my physician, my pediatrician, also within my own family. There was a neurologist in my family who was very inspirational. And so the idea that I could basically link my love of science and learning to actually making a difference is really what led me towards medicine. Now, I actually never thought I would do research. I was a chemistry major in college, and I kind of thought I had an idea of what laboratory science was like, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I actually went back for my PhD, and that was really as a result of my experiences as an oncologist. I've always, what drove me was that love of learning and making a difference. And for whatever reason, I really struggled with the care that I was providing, chemotherapy largely. For my patients as a practicing oncologist, and I don't want to shortchange the gains we have made in pediatric oncology. We have cured diseases that were otherwise incurable with chemotherapy. That's really worthwhile. But I really struggled when we did not cure a patient and we only saw toxicity of these therapies. And so I went back to graduate school and UF has really been almost the perfect place for me to really link with other investigators. It's going to take a village. It's team science that I think is critical in making the discoveries that's going to lead to human application. And that's really why I got involved in it. I felt like we needed more. I also struggled with the idea and continue to this day that pharmaceutical companies are the ones deciding what moves into patients, and have always felt that children are really at the bottom of that list, and that's not acceptable. Even when government makes new policies, those policies seem to be checkboxes for industry, pharmaceutical partners. And I grew weary of trying to work with some of those folks. I'm not saying that is invaluable, but this was a path that I and others have forged in just kind of making our own drugs.
Well, and that's right. We know that research, especially for pediatric cancer, is very underfunded compared to research in our adult cancers. But I think you've also shared in the past too, right? Some of that has been the same for almost 40 years, that treatment. And so I know personally, and some of the fundraisers that we have the opportunity to speak with, they really rally around this slogan from Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, which is, right, we're changing kids' health to change the future. And so with that, we're looking to change the future of treatment, of medicine, right? We want to find a better way to treat that patient, that child, that whole family unit. A better medicine, less side effects, whatever that might be. And so hopefully for those tuning in today, hearing a little bit more about what's actually happening, not just the word research, and knowing that that's what's supporting, inside of our hospital, is that they can go out and talk about the fact that they're trying to raise funds today to support this research and your colleagues across the department to change the future, right? So that those kids are leading better lives, getting better outcomes. And ultimately seeing better results across the board.
Yes, well said. Definitely. It's every dollar really matters. I've really presented just a small tidbit of what we are doing in research with one platform technology, the RNA vaccines. There is so much more going on for just the immunotherapy side of childhood cancer research, let alone the research side of what Children's Miracle Network is funding, let alone the totality of what Children's Miracle Network is supporting for our children's hospital. And I can honestly say that without it, we would not be able to treat children and improve outcomes the way we have here over many, many, many years. And the totality of that impact is honestly immeasurable, and it's saved lives.
And that's what we're here to do, right? As best we can, make those lives for our patients and for their families better. And so many of our partners, if they're our corporate partners at a Walmart, at a Publix, at an Ace, right, they're getting what you mentioned, that roundup, that extra dollar. And sometimes that might be, I like to tell our folks, might be a coloring book for our patients, right,
Yeah.
in the hospital who can't leave their room. But enough of those roundup is seed money, like you were talking about, to not just be a coloring book, but to maybe be a cure. And so hopefully, as those tuning in today have heard and will share with their colleagues, with their friends, with every one of the donors that they're reaching out to, they can share a little bit about what you've shared with them today. I know you can actually find some of Dr. Sayour's research and work if you look onto his biography on the University of Florida website. You can find quite a few things, and I know you've been recognized for a lot of your research as well. And so I highly encourage folks to search for that on there. We'll send out a link so you can read more about what's going on within the walls of our hospital and how that's helping not just families here in Gainesville, but throughout Florida. We know we've got families who come from throughout the Southeast and around the country to UF Health Shands for what's happening here because of our donors and partners who have turned in today. So anything else, Dr. Sayour, that you'd want to leave our donors and our partners with?
I would just mention, I really liked what you said about the coloring book. In my experiences as a physician, children who feel good, it does have an impact on their health and health outcomes. And so I don't think it's just about giving them something to do. Making a kid feel good does have an effect on their care and their outcomes. And so something as simple as that, I truly believe can make a difference even in the ultimate outcome. So really no amount of money is too little to make a difference. People just have to care.
Absolutely. And we thank you, and we thank everyone who tuned in today because we know that you guys care about what's happening here, and we appreciate your support. So thank you all. We look forward to hosting these monthly. We'll be doing these on the first Tuesday at 6 o'clock and really sharing from all of the areas, the units and departments who are supported by Children's Miracle Network Hospitals funds, from research today to programs, diversionary activities, some of the equipment even that we've been able to purchase over the years. We really want to highlight it all so that you've got information to go out and tell the community what's possible here at UF Health Shands Children's Hospital because of those of you turning in and those from years beyond and who knows what's to come. So thank you, Dr. Sayour, and thank you everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you for having me. Take care. Bye-bye.